Okay, so welcome to the B2B Live Lounge. And I have to say, I have to apologize because I haven't done one of these for a while because I've been so ill and busy and all these other things. So I am even more excited by my guest today because we haven't been around for a while. So I would just like to introduce you, my wonderful guest today, and I will tell you a little bit about her. But first of all, please meet Dr. Anna Stumpf. Woohoo! Welcome to the Live Lounge stage.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Now, Anna and I met, and I thought it was 2018, but it turns out it was 2019 in San Diego, go us, at Social Media Marketing World. And Anna reminded me we had lunch together with our lovely friend, Madeline Sklar, which was wonderful. And at that time, Anna, you were working as a sort of LinkedIn trainer and working in social media, weren't you?
University professor teaching social media marketing.
In university, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now, actually, I'm going to ask you to describe it because I think you'll do it so much better than I am. You've now pivoted, I think is the word,
I have.
into doing something else. So please tell us what you're up to now.
I will tell you, I have had so many pivots in my career, but I'm at a place now where I look in the rearview mirror and I think, oh, all of those other pivots were for this one. I have become a leadership coach. And I focus primarily on the manager level of professional services firms. So anybody that had a technical ability that's been promoted time and time again because of their proficiency now finds themselves managing staff, aka a lot of Gen Z, projects, budgets, and communication with clients, and they never were skilled up for that. So it's causing a lot of stress and burnout. That's my sweet spot. Let's go in and work with them and impact the whole organization, really.
And I love that. And we were just talking about, well, you used a great analogy about how in a family, if you have a family and only one person's having therapy, then they come into the family and nobody else, and they're all on a completely different wavelength.
I had a client tell me that, individual coaching client say, I feel like I'm the only one here that's, because I'm getting this emotional intelligence support, like coaching, and really I call it triage sometimes. I feel like I run in with my medic bag and like triage the person and send them back to the battle lines. She said, it's kind of like being with my family and I'm the only one in therapy. So I try to use these terms or these therapy analogies and nobody knows what we're talking about. We don't have any common language. And I realized that that's the case a lot of times when you take an individual and you send them to a conference or a workshop or you give them coaching and they come back and that's all kind of like pushed to the side because it's not part of the culture or part of the conversation. So yeah, I think it's far more impactful if a company will invest in that group of like a cohort to have development.
Absolutely. And they'll work together and move forward, etc. Wow. Amazing. And I cannot go any further without talking about your characters behind you, which we love.
Aren't they fun?
Yeah, they're fabulous. Do they have names?
Oh, well, there's so many things from my childhood. There's Tom and Jerry, the cartoon. I've got the Golden Girls. I share a birthday with Prince, who also passed away on my wedding anniversary. So he and I are forever together.
Wow.
There's Monsters Inc., Dolly Parton, like
Dolly,
Gilligan's Island. This is Dolly Parton.
Oh yes,
that's Incredibles and Rosanna, if you remember Saturday Night Live from my childhood in the 80s. So yeah, it's just a good time. It's a lot of people focused on things other than the imperfections when I'm on Zoom.
I love that. That's why I've got my plants and things.
That's right. Let your eye wander. It's fine.
But also, and I know we're completely going off topic, or we haven't even started on topic yet. Folks, we will be there soon. Don't worry. But let's face it, this is all about building relationships and building communities here. So, and it actually, if you are watching live, please do come and comment in the chat and say hi, because you can talk to each other and then you can take those relationships away with you and talk to each other when we're not here and continue the relationship. So please say hi in the chat if you're here live. Now I've forgotten my train of thought. Oh, because this is the thing. When we're meeting so many people online now in Zoom and Teams and wherever, really important to have something to help you remember, or to help people remember who you are. So having something behind you that's a little bit quirky or different, i.e. a bright orange wall or some really kooky characters, people are going to remember you for that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the name of my coaching practice is Collective Energy. My entire life, I have, and you've probably gotten this too, because I think you are one of the few people who can match me at any time of the day or night. I always get a compliment from people. I love your energy. Like your energy, you're in it, right? Whether I'm speaking at a group or just walking by a stranger at the grocery store, whatever it is, right? And it's always my energy. And I realize I bring that to everything, right?
Yeah.
And that Jeff Bezos quote from years ago about your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And I used to tell my students, like, you have to show up so authentically and show so consistently that people say the same things when you're not in the room. And I have no doubt in my mind when I'm not in the room and somebody mentions my name, somebody else is going to bring up my energy. And I thought, that is what I'm doing, is bringing that to my coaching. So I had to have something that had energy in it, right? So then I thought, oh, a collection behind me makes good sense, right? Like there's, I don't know, it made sense in my head and it makes sense to other people. I think that's why that matters. But
My gosh, I absolutely love everything that you've just said. So when I was growing up, I grew up in a family of boys. I was the only girl. And I was the loud one, the one that got in the way, the one that didn't shut up, the one that was just loud. That was the word. Whereas now I'm a little bit more mature, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
But also people appreciate my volume, and it is now called energy instead of the annoying loud one, which is
right.
Nicer, right?
I think my 6th grade teacher told me, you need to learn how to keep your mouth shut because nobody's ever going to pay you to talk.
Oh my gosh, that's just brilliant. I love
that's that same old crusty teacher that said, you better learn this math because you're not going to walk around with a calculator in your pocket every day.
And guess what?
Never say never, people. Never say never.
I love that. I love that nobody will pay you to talk. Well, actually, I love that. So I am going to just halt proceedings. We have a very special guest with us today. We have the one and only, the LinkedIn guru, Mr. Jeff Young, with us today. Hello, Jeff. And in fact, let's show his comment because you'll think you'll like it. Rosanna.
Funko. That's what they're called, Funko Pop. So that is Funko.
Okay. You see, I'm very educated. You see, every day is a school day. Brilliant. I love this. I'm loving this. I don't know that we want to bother with the questions, do we? Maybe we should give ourselves some direction.
Yeah.
So hi, Jeff. Thank you for coming. Right. So I have some questions for Anna. Just kind of guiding, really.
Right. Because clearly left to our own devices, we may talk about everything, but
we could really go off piste, couldn't we? So we need to have a focus. Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about listening, because you talk about listening. And I think as a coach, you must, that's a big part of what you're doing when you're working with groups of people. How does that show up how you use LinkedIn, do you think? And all about listening. And have you had any moments where being curious or really, really paying attention has helped you build a connection or opened a door for you?
Oh, that's how everything happens, right? And I kind of like lean back on my year. I spent 18 years in the classroom. I taught high school and then I taught at the university level. And I have noticed, especially in the United States, I don't think it is as prevalent in the UK. I have a very good friend who moved here 8 years ago. And the first thing he said after teaching in university here, after being in London, was, wow, this is a very standardized education you're giving these young people. And it is true. Like, it's very standardized here. And I think we kind of pull the curiosity out of our education system in this country, and we also start to diminish curiosity and questions. And I see that in the workplace too. Like when you're in a meeting and somebody's going to ask a question, everybody kind of side eyes them because they're like, we need to get out of this meeting, don't you ask a question, right? Like questions and being curious have always had some sort of like a weakness stigma or some side of kind of a negative stigma. And I think over time that has caused a problem. And I think with the way I see it manifest on LinkedIn, in especially people who are apprehensive about posting because they don't like to post or share because it puts you up, for scrutiny, it puts you up for a lot of backlash, it kind of feels self-promoting, any of those things. Why not just ask a question? Right? Like, why not just ask a question? I remember about 15 years ago, I read what's probably the thickest book I've ever read, which is called, oddly enough, The World is Flat. And it
Okay.
was
Not War and Peace.
right. It's like, what a fun, what a weird thing. But it talked about, there were some architects trying to finish a bridge, and they just posted on message boards and everything else, like, here's this problem we have and we can't fix it. It was actually somebody in another country came up with the solution. Like, why do we not crowdsource more things? Like, when nobody is expecting us to be like the expert on anything. Actually, my skin starts to itch when somebody introduces me as an expert, because I don't even know what that is anymore. But just asking questions and being curious. And I used to tell my students, when I was trying to push them out into like networking and working as hard outside of the classroom as they do in the classroom to build a personal brand, because your GPA and the college major you chose is not going to serve you as well for the rest of your life as the network you should build. And I used to be known as the golden ticket professor, because I used to tell these students, you have a golden ticket that will open any door and have a conversation start. And that is, I am a college student, and everybody wants to help somebody that is curious, right? And I said, you think these professionals have no time for you? That's a story you're finishing in your head. It's not true. Secondly, the weird thing about all of us is we love to talk about ourselves, right? Like, Sarah said, do you want to come on this live and talk about yourself? Yeah, what time? Of course I do. It's the one thing I know a lot about. It's the one thing I can talk about without anybody having like an objection or a problem, right? So if you will just end the conversation with people, if you also have, and I used to coach people this when I was still working in like accounting firms and things, like, they would come to me and want help with a difficult conversation. And like, what do I say? And I'm like, well, maybe you don't say anything. Maybe just ask 5 questions. Well, and I'm like, because the person that you're going to talk to is probably not on the same page as you yet. And asking some questions will interrupt their line of thought. It will get you both. That's just not something we have a good skill set for. I think we need to get better. And I think as we look at true engagement on these platforms, especially LinkedIn, asking somebody's opinion, asking their experience, asking like, why do you say that? Or where did you learn that? Whatever it could be, just asking a question so many times gives a response, right? Like, that's the beginning of a whole conversation. And that's really what we came here, I think, to do on this platform, is to build relationships. And that's how you do it.
Oh, I love that. It's so true. It's
Yeah.
so true.
And it
And
seems so basic.
I
Like,
know.
if you look at a child, at a toddler, some of the first long form sentences they string together is a question. And then they follow it up with why.
Yeah.
Why?
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 Where did we lose that along the way? Like, when we're new at our job, we should just be nothing but questions, right? Like, new client, ask nothing but questions. Nothing but questions.
So true. It's two things actually coming from the kind of spinning around in my head right now. So my son, when he was at secondary school, even all the way through secondary school, oh my gosh, your son asked so many questions. I love it. All the teachers loved him because he asked questions, not necessarily intelligent questions, but not just why, but why that, and he used to really pinpoint things, and the teachers absolutely loved that. But also when I'm working with my clients and we're writing their profiles, all I do is, if I'm on Zoom, or even if I'm not on Zoom and we're face to face, I'll open up a Zoom meeting so we can get a transcription of the conversation.
Yeah.
And I'll just ask some questions. And then when we're talking about what am I going to post about? So I ask some questions. What do you do? Who do you help? What do you, and I go, you just got a year's worth of content right there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Just because when we talk, we're perhaps freer with our language. But it's just asking questions.
It is.
And how do we know what our audience want and our clients want if we don't ask them?
But we feel so much pressure to perform, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think that starts very young, where we're like, oh, do this on your resume, it'll look good, or this looks good, or this is polished, this will look good. And now I worry with, that's again, one of the skill sets for the next century is like asking questions of AI. It's prompt engineering, right? Asking questions. when I use AI and I'm trying to work on something, I always say, ask me 5 questions about this, right? Like, I want to make sure it understands me. And I have a friend who was like, I've never asked AI to ask me a question. I'm like, well, then you're not really having a conversation. Like you just,
I
it's
love that.
that goes from like the HI, the human intelligence, over to the like artificial intelligence. Like we have to continue the dialogue, and the best way to do that is a question.
It is. And ask AI.
And it's
What
validating. I'll
should
tell
I
you
ask
why
you?
those teachers of your son, having been a former teacher, when a student asks a question, I know they're paying attention. That's the biggest compliment you can give anybody, is your most valuable resource, your attention.
Oh my gosh, this is wild. This is absolutely brilliant. My brain is just spinning everywhere.
I know.
We've got a great comment from Steve Billington.
One of my
Steve,
favorite people. He teaches
Steve.
pre-sales, and I guarantee you, having questions and curiosity, and the man reads, I don't know, probably 5 books a month and posts about it. He's a brilliant, brilliant person on LinkedIn, in real life too. But yeah, he definitely probably teaches this curiosity, questions, communication. Very good.
Brilliant. So, Steve, you and I are definitely going to be friends.
Definitely.
So, I'm so glad you're here and you made that comment. You see, and this is why, guys, if you are watching, please do comment, because you just don't know where these relationships will end up. And this is all about saying hi. It's just being nice and normal. And that's what we do in real life. We say hello, don't we? And we ask questions. Well, we maybe don't ask enough, but perhaps we'll be asking more questions now. So, this is great. So,
one more point I want to make too, because I think the thing that we overlook with our curiosity and our questions is how well we'll get to know ourselves when we think about what questions to ask, but we also think about the answers to questions. And I think about, there's this really cool phenomenon in psychology called the Johari window. And it talks about these 4 quadrants of like what you know about yourself, what others know about you, but you don't, what's fully hidden, like people don't know about you and you don't know about yourself, or what everybody knows about you, right? And if you take somebody when they first meet an individual, like when you and I first met in San Diego, right? Like our Johari window was very odd, right? We hadn't quite, but the more we engage with each other, whether it's on LinkedIn or with these moments or email or whatever it is, we shift that and open it up. And I learn about myself, you learn about yourself, we learn about each other. And it's just like, it's so impactful that we can't deny, even as like individuals. If you're like an individual business owner or individual proprietor, that a solopreneur, and you don't have a lot of peers, sitting down and talking to other people may not seem like the best investment for your ROI, but man, it is. It really truly is. You'll learn a lot.
So I've got a hack, which I'd sort of forgotten about, and you just reminded me of it. So thank you for that. If you're trying to get to know somebody, really get to know somebody just on LinkedIn, you can scroll through the content, you can use AI to help you, etc., etc. But the really, really neat trick is see if they have written, not received, but written any recommendations. And of course, you can go to their LinkedIn profile and have a look. Look at the language they're using.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they're describing other people using words like, I don't know, brilliant, use that word brilliant back to them, because that's what they use. So that's what they want to hear back. And this is, and I can imagine if we go through our own recommendations that we've written, we would learn exactly what you've said. We would learn so much about ourselves.
I have been presenting on LinkedIn to college students and young professionals since, I don't know, probably 12 years. And that's always my secret weapon, is the giving recommendations.
Oh.
Because what it does is that, especially if you're an intern and you're leaving, make sure you give a bunch. But if you go look at somebody's profile, exactly what you said, people understand you can ask for a recommendation, which, by the way, is one of the most awkward things you can do. And that puts a lot of pressure on the other person. But to give a recommendation also stays on your profile. But all of a sudden, there's somebody out there who's just going on about their day. All of a sudden, they get a notification and it says, like, Sarah has given you a recommendation. But to your point, I go to everybody's profile and I'm like, have you given more than you've received? And what do you have to say about each individual person? because that shows how relatable and like how focused you are on other people. I love that you brought that up because it is such a secret weapon on this platform.
It
On
is.
LinkedIn,
No
it
secret
really is.
anymore. Oh my gosh, this is just brilliant, 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 brilliant. Okay, what are we going to talk about? So I'm looking at my questions. Typed truths.
Yeah.
Tell us about the typed truths. Come on, let's hear about typed truths, your series.
So I have been in some sort of mentor, coaching, education, leadership. I started my career at the world's largest company in management. Then I pivoted to education. Then I went back to training and development, corporate America, all of that. And I have just seen some common leadership fallacies and mistakes and things that we do because we've always done, and things that we lay like an albatross on the neck of new managers, and how this is what we've all, just the things, the cliches and the things that we've always done. So I just started keeping a list in my phone a few years ago, because what was so funny to me is, having left the business world and been in education for, I mean, like almost 2 decades, to come back and being faced with so many of the similar challenges that I left in, years ago, and I just started keeping notes in my phone. And now I have this giant list of things. And I think as a coach in the leadership realm, that's the way to combat that, right? So then you have to sit and you think, how do I curate this content to where it will like wake people up or like make it relatable? And I do very long form posts. I have people all the time tell me, like, do you think if you use so many less words or broke that into 4 posts, people would actually read it? And I think I'm not here to go viral, right? I'm here to leave a breadcrumb trail of who I authentically am. So when somebody wants to come look at my platform or look at my content to say, is this somebody I would be comfortable having as a coach? They get to know me, right? Like I'm not here to go viral necessarily. So I'm me. And the biggest compliment anybody could give me is, oh my gosh, having a conversation with you sounds just like it does reading your posts. I'm like, I have arrived, and there will be no notes, right? I'm good, thank you. But I thought, how can I take these punchy little like sentences that I've recorded over 5 years and convey them in a way that will like impact people? And I knew it couldn't be through my long form content. So I just went to Canva and chose like a real simple muted little kind of action video. It's the person typing, right? Put my quote up there and created them as templates, and it's just served me well. And it's a lot of good conversation comes from that. And I'll run into people at the coffee shop and they'll mention, type truth number 7. I'm still thinking about that one. Like, I love it. I absolutely love it. So I think
Oh,
sometimes you have to step outside, even though I'm very consistent in being verbose, clearly, like I am in person. Sometimes if I can put it in a couple sentences, it's going to be even better. So yeah.
oh my gosh, so many golden nuggets have come out of what you've just said, as it's just like
I
it's
know.
exploding with nuggets. But varying your content is one thing that obviously
Mhm.
appeals. But what I love is you're just doing what you want to do. You're being
Oh
yourself.
yeah.
You're using language that you would use in real life, which is, I tell people, I bang it over people's head all the time. And it works for you, because if
Mhm.
people like it, if people like you, they like your content. If people like your content, they're like you, because it's such a true representation of who you are.
Yeah, I had the best conversation with a cashier yesterday. She was probably in her 60s, and she said, it's really wasted on the youth that we have to get this old not to care what people think about us.
I love
Said, if you knew how true that was, because to your point, Sarah, like I'm just me. And if there's something about me that somebody engages with on LinkedIn and says, well, I don't think I'd want her around the office, good. Then you have saved both of us a lot of time and like focus, like go find what's best for you. I am not for everyone, right? And vice versa. So
Yeah.
I think there's some real power in like owning who you are and understanding sometimes rejection is protection. Sometimes people are going to be confronted with you in the store or online or wherever it is and not get the right vibe. And that's okay. Like we are not all meant to be together all the time.
No, I
Yeah.
had a couple of sales calls with a head of marketing at a big agency recently. And she came back to me at the end and she said, you know what? We're not going with you. She says, I love you. I think you're great. But the guys that you're going to be training, the sales team, you're too much.
Oh, yeah.
Like, fine. That's great. She goes, but when I move to my next firm, you're coming. Like,
because she's probably too much for them too, right? If we're honest, she is going to,
already.
Yeah, she's going to work as less, like with her volume turned down and being muted. And it's funny, in higher ed, I was in 2 different universities back to back. And in one of them, I would get an email almost every week that would say, you're going to have to turn your volume down. You're going to have to not speak up in meetings. You're not going to have an opinion on everything. And then went to the next university and my boss let me do a presentation, didn't even look at it beforehand, just let me go. And he goes, you know what? Some people have rocket fuel. Some people have nitrous. We've got Anna.
Yeah.
How can I be in the same industry in 2 different places that are 30 miles apart?
Well, that's why you do what you do, because you go in and help people do the leadership differently, perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, we have got some fans here.
Oh, another good friend. And this is another person I met on Twitter that she hated LinkedIn. And I was like, you got to get over here. So I don't think she still loves it, but she tolerates it. So
well done. Well done, Michelle. I give you kudos for tolerating Twitter X. I can't believe that we all still call it Twitter. Everybody.
I know.
And we've also got another one. Andrea, breadcrumb trail. That's a good one. It is a good one. There's a really good one. Yeah.
I use a couple of good cliches when I talk about LinkedIn to try to get people who get on there and don't love it to give it a chance. And first of all, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Oh,
like we do not have to have it perfected. We are not going for perfection, right? People do business with people, not with perfection. And the other one is definitely the breadcrumb trail. Like you're just leaving artifacts behind as to who and what you are.
Yeah. 100%. And it's about being front of mind and being helpful. We know all of those things. We don't need to do it. Oh my gosh, I'm looking at the time. Wow. Okay, I've got a final question, but I'm going to have one question. So I know I've got 2 more, but I'm only going to choose one. So how do you balance? It's the balance between, because we've talked, you've already talked about being you on the platform, but obviously you still need to be professional. And this is a question I get asked a lot. How personal do I be? How professional can I be? What do I do? How do I get the balance right?
That's such a good question. I think it is definitely maybe just an extension of your brand and your style when you're in the office or in the business place or in the pub or in conversation, right? If I have some friends like that are just TMI everything, I know everything about them, their family, everybody. I have other people that I don't know if they're married. Like they don't talk about anything other than like what's on the table. Like, so I think it has to be an extension of yourself. And if you're fully comfortable with that, I personally am a very like holistic person. I think the more we know, I used to laugh at this in the 90s when I was doing training development at Walmart. Unfortunately, one of the key parts of our leadership development was to leave everything at the door and just come to work, right? Like that was, and you still have a lot of people who were brought up that way in business and brought up that way in their personal brand. And now I'm seeing people like that I'm maybe connected with on LinkedIn, or maybe even a second or third connection, whose kids are like ringing the bell at the end of chemo treatment. And I think, what a free and wonderful way to celebrate probably one of the hardest things you're going to go through as a human being. A win for sure, but then to have a professional community come around you and not have to leave that in some sort of a compartment because you come to work. So as a professor, I always hate the answer, it depends, but I do think it depends, like if on your level of comfort and, a lot of times maybe what industry you're in, because some of those industries haven't evolved to the point where we're like a holistic person yet. And maybe you don't want to be the pioneer to do that. But yeah, I think that's a personal call. I always get really disgruntled when I see people on LinkedIn judging other people for posting those things. And like we're humans. We're just all humans.
Yeah. And since when did you go into a business meeting and just straight into business? It's
right.
How are you? How's your weekend? How are the kids? How's your partner? Blah, blah, blah.
And I've always thought, like, you treat everyone the same by treating them different, like, for the individual that they are, and I'm not gonna treat, like, a breastfeeding mother like I am, like, somebody else, right? Like, the more I know about you, the better off I can be a resource to you, so.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And actually, on my profile, I've got on my headline, my last word I've got is cyclist. So it's what I
Mhm.
did, and then cyclist. Today, I spoke at an event in the city, and the lady who was running the event came up to me and she said, "You're a cyclist, aren't you? We've connected on Strava. I've sent her a ride that I did in the Alps. You know, all of this. That's relationship building." And if
Yeah,
that leads to business, then that's fine. If it doesn't, that's also fine, because
right.
actually, you know, who knows? But you just don't know. And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
I had an engineering student ask me one time, he had an Instagram for his crochet, like the crochet projects he was doing, and he's like, should I mention that on my LinkedIn? I was like, no, you should put a featured pin to your Instagram. And definitely like put it in your, like, it should not just be mentioned, it should be a big fundamental part of who you are, because who would not want to hire an engineer who has like a right brain creative project hobby?
Oh, I
I
love
mean, you
that.
want to talk about a full range person, I would hire that engineer in a heartbeat. So
Yeah. 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 Me too. And I've been helping my son with his LinkedIn recently. And he's like, "Oh, no, I can't tell them I do that." I said, "Yes, yes, yes, you can. Come
yes,
on."
you can.
First year, you're about to be second year at university. And he's really, oh, I was like, "No, no, no, go on, put it out, put it out. Tell
I
people."
mean, empathetically, think about how many times somebody's had to sit down and do a first interview. Tell me about yourself, right? Like, what if you could start with like, tell me about your cycling, tell me about your crochet, tell me about these weird collection that you like. If you had a different question to ask because of some sort of artifact or evidence that you saw, you would be so relieved. It
Yeah.
would be so wonderful, right? To not have to ask the same canned question all the time. So
Oh, you're so dull. Yes, exactly.
yeah,
So, oh my gosh, we could talk all
I
day long,
know, all
but
day.
we're already 3 minutes over our half-hour slot.
I'm surprised it's not 10 times though, to be honest.
No, well, exactly. So I'm going to skip the next question. I'm going to straight
All
to the
right.
last question, which is what I ask all my guests. Jeff Young has been asked this question too, and I will probably get Jeff back. I think we need to get him back on. But anyway, the question is this: for those people who are watching now, or for who are listening on the podcast, if ever it becomes a podcast, which it will, or on the repeat, can you
Right.
give 3 tips, actionable tips that they can take away today?
Yes. Um, ditch perfection. We do not need to be polished. We do not need to be perfect. We need to be authentic. We need to be real and just ditch it, right? Um, make sure it sounds like you, right? Make sure that your post sounds like if I picked up the phone or ran into you, it's a conversation. That's going to be so much more relatable and why people will stop to read your content. It's also, I think, gives you the freedom to understand um, you're building a castle on borrowed land to post on any platform because we don't know the algorithm. And even if somebody figures it out on Tuesday, it's going to be different on Wednesday. And you're not going to get in front of all of your people. Sarah and I have been connected on 3 different platforms for years, and we have to go dig find each other sometimes, right? Like you're just not going to be as out in front of everyone as you think you are, which brings me to my second thing is be consistent. Just keep posting and commenting. And if you're apprehensive about posting something, just start commenting. There's so many ways to follow people and go look at their activity and their posts and make sure they're active and comment and ask a question and do all those things to lead yourself up to the confidence to create your own posts and things. And then the other one is like, I think the biggest skill set we're going to have that we should have already had that some of us struggle with is be a good storyteller. Tell a
Yeah,
story.
yeah, tell your
Yeah.
story, because people love a story. Ever since
Well,
we
it's
were
how we learn. If you
babies, we
remember,
loved a story.
yes, that's what we
Yeah,
do to with kids. That's how we learn. That's how we get engaged. Is to like get involved in a story. Like,
I just thought of something. So you are asking about why do we lose our ability or desire or whatever it is to ask questions?
mhm.
Do you think that drops off around the same time that we stop reading stories?
I think it does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because our
and like reading for pleasure, like reading fiction and reading for mystery and reading for thrillers and fantasy. when we got to read for school and academics, and then by then you've lost the habit and you've lost the wonder and the curiosity and the imagination and the daydream. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Dr. Anna Stubbs, so your 3 tips: ditch perfection. I love that. And in fact, you said earlier on towards the beginning, people work with people, not perfection, which I love that little quote. Be consistent, and consistent in commenting on LinkedIn. You don't have to keep posting and posting, but just be out there, being there on LinkedIn, being consistent. And tell stories, tell your stories, because that's what we love to hear. And your posts, you know, these long posts that you write, they're great, they're wonderful.
I think so.
Good. And that's the main thing, right?
And it's very much an extension of me, right? We only got to like 3 questions today because my answers are so long. So it is who I am. I'm not going to be different in a post than I am if you run into me and say, how are you today? Because it's gonna all come out at you. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. We are way over time, but I hope nobody minds. I hope you don't mind.
I don't.
You would have said, I'm sure. Dr. Anna Stubbs, I probably will have to get you back on here at some point. But it's been absolutely wonderful to have you.
So good.
On the live. Thank you for coming and for rescheduling as well, because I know we had to do that. And it's been great having you here. I'm going to play us out with a little bit of music, and we can dance. Anybody can dance if they want to. It's a Thursday afternoon or morning, wherever you are. Let's have some music. And
happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday. Oh my gosh, it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, America. Thank you, Dr. Anna Stubbs. And go and find Anna on LinkedIn and connect with her.
Please do. Please do.